these two globes. I don't know how to describe them. And I stood up there and looked at them, and it's like,
I just couldn't hold it anymore, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was a chupacabra. I was so excited.
They were referring to Bigfoot.
There are voices in the darkness.
reason why this show is called Drunken Cryptoids.
You know, Jacob and Chris, you ever notice when we're out doing investigations and researching and stuff, we rarely find any scat?
I
Never.
noticed that.
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
Porta potties.
Porta potties.
Porta potties. That's right. I'm willing to bet Sasquatch is using porta potties.
Who does he get them from?
Well, I tell you right now, he can get a hold of them Arkansas portable toilets there in North Little Rock. They provide weekly services, bi-weekly services, even 3 times a week services. They provide hand wash stations. They also provide freshwater tanks and holding tanks for your trailers. Yeah, that's right. Special events units for if you're having a crazy event, if you're going to have a Sasquatch encounter, you can have a personalized special event porta potty just for your Sasquatch investigations. That's the reason why we're not finding any scat out there.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Arkansas Portables is number 1 when you're going number 2. I just want you to know that. But you can reach out and contact them 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, at 501-753-7140. Again, that's 501-753-7140. They're great for your construction sites. They're good for any, like I said, special events. They are there for you. I can tell you that right now. But contact them on up. Again, their phone number is 501-753-7140, and they cover most of Central Arkansas. So if you have a porta potty need, just ask Sasquatch. He goes to Arkansas Portables. And welcome back to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. I do want to say thank you to everybody out there that's been liking and commenting and sharing our content. It's greatly appreciated. We see you out there, so kudos. Thank you very much. Real quick shout out, though, to blademedia.com. Dylan over there at Blade Media. They're the ones who set the website for us. He did a great job. Dylan's great. He's local. He's a small town guy, and he's just his own small business. And I'm all a fan about supporting small businesses, and Dylan did a great job. Check out our website if you want an example, or just go to his website at blademedia.com. Blade is BLAYED media.com. Dylan, man, I appreciate it. And, of course, I got to give a shout-out to my team. I'm not where I'm at today, and the success that I have today isn't just due to me. I've been truly blessed to have a good team that surrounds me. I can't say enough about them. If you listen to the show, I do talk about them, and I brag about them. And to my team out there, you guys are amazing, and thank you so very much for the support. It's a great ride, and we're only getting crazier, you guys. So buckle up and have a good time. Events coming up, though. I am going to be speaking at the Ozark in Ozark, Arkansas, at the town hall meeting on February 8th, put on by the Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel. We're going to be at the Paradise Pizza there in Ozark. It's going to be a great show. I'm going to be there. Well, for the town hall meeting, I'm going to be there. Todd Neese is going to be there. Again, the Arkansas Bigfoot Cartel is putting it on. There will be expeditions going on that weekend as well, so you'll have a chance to partake. There's a campground right there by there. If you need more information, feel free to email us. If you want to camp out and go on an expedition, go ahead, do that. We'll get you taken care of. We get all the information you need. Also, the big news is that we are going to do a live show on April 5th with the Cryptids of the Corn guys from Ohio. They're coming here to Arkansas. We're going to be at the Old Bart's at Diamond Bear Brewery here in North Little Rock. It's going to be a great time. It's on April 5th. It's going to be from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. We're going to have the full menu there at Old Bart's. You can get a Drunken Cryptid cheeseburger. You want to try it, I promise. We're going to do a show. They're doing a show. It's a meet and greet as well. You get a chance to ask us questions. Doing the episode, you'll be able to ask questions as well, so you'll be able to be on the show possibly, which will be a lot of fun. Come out, hang out with us. It's kid-friendly, so bring the kids. we're all going to be there. My team's going to be there. Justin and Jay are going to be there from the Crips of Corn. And there might be some other podcasters coming through as well to hang out. So you never know who's going to be there. I do have a special guest coming, and you definitely want to get a chance to meet and greet him. I can promise you that. Other than that, that's what we have for the rest of the year. Other expeditions I will be going on. Later on as the year goes, and once we get more, dates solidified and everything, I'll keep you guys up to date on. But again, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing everything and liking us and following us. I know the intros can go kind of long, so I'll cut it short here in a second. But just remember, we do have a Patreon as well. The Patreon does help us out. That's how we keep this thing going. I do love the show. There's other episodes on there. There's 3 different tiers. The links are posted below if you want to go ahead and become a Patreon member. You get a chance to visit with us more, doing Discord, stuff like that. We'll have a lot of fun. You might even get a chance to hang out at the tavern, but you'll definitely get a chance to go on some expeditions with us if you're close by. If not, if we're in an area and you're there, you're going to get a chance to do it. Again, thank you to the team. Thank you to everybody liking and sharing us. However, if you've had an encounter, and it doesn't matter, you may think it may be nothing, you may think it may be something, email us, drunkencryptids@gmail.com. Shoot us an email, we'll go over it, we'll reach out to you, talk to you, we get you on the show. The more content we get out there, the more people that are going to listen to the show, the more people we can reach, and your story may help somebody out. I love hearing that this person's episode helped them out with this issue or made them feel better about what they had gone through, So you have no idea that your encounter may actually help somebody out. Just saying. And to the fans out there, you guys have been loyal all the way through from day one. I appreciate you. I see you. I enjoy seeing you guys at the events. I do. Eli, shout out to you right there, buddy. I just want to say thanks again. It was a pleasure meeting with you and talking with you. You and me are going to talk some more off air about some of your encounters and such. And the same thing, if you guys have had an encounter and you don't want to go on the air, email it to us. We'll talk about it. We'll do an episode based upon your encounter. We'll just kick around some ideas, kind of like a roundtable thing. There will be some more roundtable discussions coming up. I can promise you that with some other podcasters. We have that in the works. There'll be some more meet and greets in the area as well. We just had a great one recently. It was a lot of fun. Going to definitely be doing that again. So keep listening. Keep checking the Facebook page for all the dates of everything. And yeah, I'll tell you guys what. Let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. And tonight, coming back again for his part 2 from the lovely Lodge Tales on YouTube and Spotify and all your other streaming platforms out there. You want to follow Lodge Tales. If you're not following them already by this episode, you need to start following them. You do not know what you're missing. Rod is a great guy, and it's an honor to have him back on the show again. It is, and this is a topic that I'm excited about, Rod, and I have enough knowledge about this to maybe conversate around the water cooler a little bit, if you catch my drift. So I'm not up on it, but it's one of those topics that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, so the little people, if you didn't catch my intro in the last introduction of myself in the last podcast.
Please
Rod.
redo it again.
Yeah, I'm Rod from the Blackfeet tribe in Montana, and I was raised the traditional way, and I got a podcast called Lodge Tales where we share all the ghost stories and things like that from indigenous storytellers. So in this episode, we want to talk about the little people, or as we call them, the Boksipipiks. And these are spirits, right? They're spirits, but then again, the balance that I spoke about in the last episode, the balance. There's going to be good, there's going to be bad, right? And these little people. So in our way, how they look to us, because depending on the geographic region you go to, they're going to look different. They're going to look different. Not all of them look the same. And so how they look to us is basically just shrunk down humans to about a foot tall. And they're perfectly proportioned, just like a regular human. They're just small, but they look like a a snapshot from the 1700s, little native. To us, they look like little natives, and they dress in old clothes like buckskins, stuff like that. That's how they dress. And so traditionally, our relationship with them was the tobacco, because my tribe were we would move, we would migrate, we would follow the buffalo throughout our whole territory in Montana, and our territory was huge. It went all the way from the North Saskatchewan River, way up in Canada, Alberta, up north there, went to the North Saskatchewan River, all the way down to Yellowstone National Park. And then it went out a ways off the Yellowstone River and then straight up to Canada. And then the west boundary was the Rocky Mountains. So we had this huge hunting territory that we lived in. And within that, we wouldn't farm anything. We weren't farmers, because we followed the buffalo or plains culture like that. So the only thing we did farm was tobacco, and that was it. Because tobacco come to us in a strange way too. Like a lot of these things have come to us, they came to us in these strange ways. And same with tobacco. And what ended up happening was they would form tobacco societies. They had these tobacco societies, and um, any Blackfoot out there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they still have them today. And uh, what they would do was when they would plant their tobacco in a certain area, there was a whole ceremony around it, and they would hand those seeds. They would plant those seeds, but they would hand the caretaking of it off to those little people. So they kind of had an agreement with them that they would, watch cultivate the tobacco for us, or in turn they gave them offerings and whatever else, whatever the agreements were. I don't know, but there was a relationship like that. And so by the time the next year came around, and you were back in that same area when you kind of migrated back through there, uh, the tobacco would be plumb lush, grown, big and well, and so they'd harvest it. And that's kind of the traditional um, relationship that they had with them for ages up to this day. I mean, I know that there are some. I don't want to say what they are, but there's this particular group of people that still rely on them for things like that, and they still give them offerings in those holy traditional ways. In the form of like little clothes. They'll give them little clothes. They'll give them tobacco. They'll give them, there's even people that make them little tiny pipes, and they offer those little pipes to them, things like that. And so that still goes on today. And there's a certain kind of holy person that really kind of depends on that, because those are the ones that still cultivate the tobacco today. But that was like the relationship with them. Now, today they're just like, aside from the ceremonies where they come around, because sometimes they'll even sweat with you. They'll show up in those sweats. They might show up in any kind of ceremony. They might show up, and sometimes they're just around. They're not even in a. They're not even in nothing like that. Sometimes they're just around. All right. So one time, my wife, her mother cooked for those elders. She still does to this day. Cooks for those elders out in their community, uh, and they were delivering meals to the outlying elders that couldn't get in. They didn't have a car, or really inaccessible to their places. They had this big rig that they would drive out in and deliver meals and stuff like that. And so one of these guys they went out to kind of live by those badlands, and as they were pulling up, they, they looked reading his window. His curtains were closed, and reading that windowsill, his back was propped up against one of the sides of the windowsill. He was sitting there, and it was one of those little people reading his window. And they said they all seen him. He's kind of smoking a little tiny cigarette, sitting there on that windowsill. And he seen them, and he put his cigarette down, and he jumped off of that windowsill. And they walked in, like, knocked on his door, come in. And they walked in and she was freaked out. She was scared when she had his meals, and I don't want to say his name, but she said, "Oh, so and so, here's your meals. My mom said to bring them out to you." He says, "Here it is. It's cooked today." And, this, that, and the other. And she said, "Do you know that there was something in your window?" Oh, yeah. Don't worry about him. He's always around here. Yeah, don't worry about him. Just you don't got nothing to be scared of. Okay. And she just walks out, and she gets back up to the center, and she tells her mom, "Hey, I seen that there was a little person in his window." She said, "Oh yeah, forgot to tell you guys about that. Sometimes they'll see him. He stays out there with him." So yeah, sometimes that they're just around, and this guy stayed all by himself, way out there. And a lot of times there are stories where people say that there are a lot of those little people that come from those badlands that are on our just right in that little area. They said a lot of times that's where a lot of them are seen. It's out there. So if he lives right near there, well, kind of makes sense that maybe one of them decided to hole up with him. And so another time something similar to that happened where there's actually one living in a house with people. One of my friends, um, and he's on the podcast too. Again, it's Arlen Potts. He's on the podcast. He was staying with one of his friends' mother, and the friend wasn't home yet, but him and his brother had drove off to another town. I want to say Great Falls, and they were coming back that night. But his friend wasn't home yet, and the house was dark. And he said usually we would just kind of knock on that door, and that dog would start barking, and then his mother would come out and just kind of let us in, because they were friends with our folks, like that woman was friends with our folks and everything. So we'd spend a night with them, kind of hang out and everything, when we were younger. And so they were in high school or something like that, and his brother was the one that was driving, so he was older. But anyways, so they get back and same thing. They go to knock on that door, but you could tell everybody was asleep. But they knew their friend wasn't there, but they still were staying there. And so they go and knock on that door, and they're standing there kind of waiting. And there's a window that runs adjacent to the door, all the way down to the ground. So one of those long windows beside the doors. And he says, we were standing there, and all of a sudden that curtain kind of moved a little bit. He said, me and my brother both looked down where it was moving, and he said, we just seen this little person. He's kind of look up at us, look at both of us like he recognized us. Just kind of close that curtain behind him. He said, and all of a sudden we heard this dog start barking. And then I'm standing there. He says, and I'm looking at my brother. Hey, did you just see that? Yeah. Oh, what are we going to tell her? What should we say? How are we going to tell her this? I said, man, don't say nothing. Don't even say nothing. He said, all right. And so they just stood there. That dog started barking. Next thing you know, that woman got up and she come to the door and opened it. And I said, oh, you guys back. All right. And so they just come in and went to sleep on those couches. And that was the whole story. That's what happened. He said they didn't see it anymore after that. He said, but what he thinks happened was even that dog was asleep. And so normally the dog barks and alerts the woman, and the woman comes and opens the door. So they think what happened was once that little person seen him and recognized them, like, oh, I know these guys, and just kind of closed that curtain, that little person went over and woke that dog up. They didn't knock anymore after that, and that dog started barking and got that lady's attention, and she let him in. So yeah, sometimes they're like that. They'll stick around like that, but they're spirits, right? I need to make that clear. These ones are not. They can have an effect on this physical world, but they're not physical. They're straight up spirits, but they're small, and I don't know why they're like that, but they are. They're small. And so this other story, I was so small that I don't remember this, and we used to go out across the creek from my grandpa's house where I grew up at, and my uncle had a horse ranch there, cattle ranch, and they had this box of toys out there. Them days it was simple. Everything was simple, like we didn't have a lot of the electronics and devices and whatever we did today. It was toys, we went outside and we played. That's what we did. And so I was really small, and they had this kind of box of toys, and they said the first thing I'd do when I got there was I'd always grab that wagon, and I would run down into this little spot behind their house into the brush. And they said I was always down there. They said I was getting wood. I was carrying wood with them, or carrying wood like I was delivering wood or doing something with wood. They said I always had a bunch of little sticks piled up in there and I was dragging that wood somewhere. Because they'd check on me every now and again. And those toys too, I would grab those toys and I'd bring them all down there and I'd play down there and then pretend like I was getting wood. And I don't remember any of this. And my mom said, she said, yeah, the rule was at the end of the day, when we were getting ready to leave, or if it was evening when we had to come in when the sun went down, we'd all have to go in. We weren't allowed to stay out when the sun went down. And so we'd have to gather all of those toys and put them in the box right on that porch again. And every time we would leave, my aunt said those toys, they would all be spread out down back where Rod plays, that brush down there. All those toys would be there. We don't know how they get there, but we'd have to go back down there and pick them all up and put them back in that box. And they were all talking at one point, I guess. And my mom thinks that, I was down there. She said, because I'd be down there talking. And well, kids talk when they play. But my mom and I think there was more to it. They think I was playing with those little people down there. And they were asking me to help them get wood. Because I shouldn't have been playing like that. They said it was kind of odd that I was playing like that. Like I was doing chores. Kids don't play doing chores. Things like that. So they think they were having me help them get them wood. And so that kind of brings me into this next story. So my dad and them were right north of there in this open area. And it's still in that floodplain, but it's above the river. And it's flat right there. And across that flat, there's trees that hug the other side of it. It's kind of an open area. Well, there's huge piles of deadwood deposits everywhere because there was a huge flood that came through in the 60s, washed away a lot of houses, killed a lot of people. There's a memorial at our museum in town of all the people that passed away during that flood. But there's still these huge deposits of dead wood. So my dad and them were going down to get wood in their truck. My dad and my cousins and maybe another uncle. He didn't really say who's all with him. But there was a handful of them from that house that went down. And he said, we just pulled up in this one area and we're going to get out because we thought we could get around some of those deadwood piles and get to the other side where we could start cutting some of it up. And we were just kind of scouting it out. And so we parked. And he says, when we walked by, he says, we're going along. He says, we all looked down and we seen this little wagon. And we just looked at it. And we kept walking, we left it alone, but we kind of all knew what it was, and so we kept walking, and we got over there and thinking, I wonder how we're gonna do this. So they ended up figuring out how they were gonna position that truck and get that wood, and they got their wood. But at some point they had to walk back through there to get back out, and so they walked back through that area, and that wagon was gone. And I didn't think there was very much to this story, just that it was strange that a little wagon was there, then it was gone. And I'm thinking to myself, a little wagon like I used to play with, like they said that was down there, those little kid wagons. And I said, what kind of wagon you mean, Dad, like those little kid wagons? Because he told me this a couple times and I never asked him. I just assumed it was that. He said, no. He says, like an old-time wagon. He says it was really small. He says, well, about the size of one of those kid wagons. He says, no, but this was a perfect little wagon like the old times. You could even see those little tiny rivets on it everywhere. He says, like a real old wagon. He says, he says it was those little people's wagon. And he said, when we were getting wood that day, we think that we ran into them, and they hid and left their wagon there. They didn't have time to hide it. So when we went by them, that's when we saw their wagon. But because when we left that, after we got our wood, it was gone, and none of us bothered it. It was a real old time wagon. He said, so we think we basically surprised them, and they had to hide real quick.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. Those little people, they're around, and sometimes they're like bad. I don't know how to say it, but they're bad. I don't know other way to describe it. Because in that house, okay, so the little house where I'd stacked the toys in the box, that was a one-bedroom little house, kitchen and a living room, bathroom attached to the bedroom. This is a little tiny house. That house is dilapidated and almost fallen down today. They had since built a newer house. The tribe built a new house out there. There's like this program, I don't know, but they built a new house out there. And it's basically you come in the front door, there's stairs up to the upstairs and stairs down to the basement. Basement had bathroom, shower, bedrooms down there, and the top had the living room, kitchen, and one bedroom up there. And so everybody kind of basically hung out in that top floor. Well, after my uncle and them had all passed, my cousin, she inherited the house. And one night, so that house sat empty for a long, long time. When all my uncles, they all passed away. Nobody moved out there. Well, she finally moved back out there, and she had these little kids, little girls, my little cousins. Well, she said, yeah, there'd be times for that little guy. She said he's no good, man. He'd be pulling those kids under that bed. I could hear him screaming. I'd run down there, and he's pulling them under the bed, and I'd have to grab them and jerk them out of there. And they'd all be telling me it's that little man. There's a little man down there messing with them. And she said, yeah, he was sure no good. She said one day I was laying up here in the living room, and she said I was just watching TV, but I had my couch where the foot of my couch was at the top of the stairs, just off the top of the stairs. And if I looked down the way I was laying, I could see the stairs. And also I was watching TV from where I was laying. She said, and I'd just be watching TV and I'd see him peek up at the top of the stairs at me. And she said I'd look and he'd duck back down. So he kept doing that. And she said, I start getting annoyed with it because he's doing that. So he did it one more time. She said, I just reached down, I grabbed my shoe and I threw it down those stairs at him. And she said, Jesus, as soon as the shoe flew out of sight down those stairs, she said it didn't even land. It come flying right back up and landed from where I picked it up at.
Wow.
Yeah, she threw it right back at her.
Wow.
Yeah, so in that area, that's where I know there's quite a few of those little people that live there. They're there for some reason. I don't know. I've never seen any of their little lodges or anything like that, but in that whole area, there was a lot of stories. So fast forward years and years later, I'm home on leave, and because I went to the Marines and I was home on Marine leave before I went to the Army. I went to the Army after the Marines, and I'm just happy to be home. You know how it is going on leave. You're just happy to see all your family and everything like that. So we go out there, and this is at the time where nobody lived in that house. So we were at an establishment off the res, just across this bridge. There's a little town called Cutbank, and we were at one of the bars there. And geez, all my family, there's this family left and right showing up from the creek. And we all start visiting, hanging out. Just glad to see everybody. And so they said, well, hey, let's continue this after closing. We'll head up to Bum Bums and we'll go up there and we'll build a fire down by that river. All right, yeah. The cousin that inherited the house was with us as well. My sister, my dad, one of my uncles, his wife, my aunt, and another cousin. I was the youngest one there though. So we're all sitting down there, and it must be about 3 in the morning at the time, 3:30, something like that. And geez, I was happy to see him all. We got a fire going, and all of a sudden we see these headlights coming up. Okay, so to get to the house, you have to go off of the main paved road, the highway, and get on this dirt road that hugs. It's basically a wall for the irrigation canal, and we call it the ditch bank road. And so you got to take that all the way up and then duck off at that house. There's kind of like a driveway down. And so that's where it was at. And we see a car coming up the ditch bank road, and there's a bend where you got to take before it gets into the house. And I see him pull off on that bend. There's like this pull off area right there. And I see him turn his lights off, whoever it was. And my aunt said, oh, that must be your cousin so-and-so, he must be coming up to see how we're doing. Because I told him we were going to be out here. And that cousin was as old as me. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, it'd be good to see him. To see somebody my age and be able to visit, my age. And so I sit there and I'm watching where he turned his headlights off and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Like, what's he doing up there? Is he using the bathroom before he comes up? What the hell's he doing? I was just wondering. And just then another set of headlights came. And he gets so close to that house, there's that one outside light that you can kind of see a little bit, but he turns on his spotlight so we know it's a cop. And he's spotlighting down at us. And my uncle said, he can't come down here. It's private property. He can't be down here. He can just stay on that road unless we invite him down. He says, but we're all of age. Ain't got nothing to worry about. Just let him be. And so he drives by real slow and he turns around, and I'm assuming it's at this one place where there's a turnaround, and because he comes right back through, shines his lights again. And I just watch him. We all watch him. He drives back down, and I'm still wondering, what the heck? He's my cousin out. I said, hey, I'm going to walk up there and see if he's sitting there, see what he's doing. So I go up there, walk past that big old house and that little tiny one. I get up on that ditch bank road and I'm walking down, and finally I get over to that. It's about 300 yards straight line distance that I had to walk. And so I finally get over there, and it's at night, and I'm looking where that little pullout is. Thinking, where the hell is he? He's not there. Like, I didn't hear him drive away. It's so quiet out there. You can hear the tires crunching the gravel on that road. I didn't hear nothing. So that really confused me. I'm like, what the hell? Where did this guy go? Because I seen those lights turn off right here. Like, where? So I walked down the road a little further. I said, well, maybe he drove down and I didn't see. Maybe he, parked further down the road and I didn't see him. I just thought it was right here. So I walked down past that little bend where it gets to a straightaway. And I'm looking and there's nobody there. Like, geez, what the hell that was, and whatever. So I turn around and I start walking back up, and opposite of the turnoff that you take to pull into the house and onto the land right there, opposite of that, across that irrigation canal, there was an old bridge there. And you used to be able to drive a truck across it, or even run cattle or take a horse over it, but it was old and one side of it caved in. And there was only one side still standing. And I mean, you could walk on it and everything. It would still hold you up. You could still cross it. I used to cross it when I was hunting through there. But I was walking up to that, and as soon as I get somewhat close to it, I'm standing there and I stop because there's a little person standing right on that bridge.
No
And
way.
as I stop and like stand there and like don't know what to, like how you almost get into a fighting stance where you kind of spread your feet kind of far apart, you're getting ready to run or fight, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I was, half crouched a little, just like, what the hell? And I'm looking at him, and we saw each other at the same exact time. When I saw him, he seen me, and I seen him crouch and get ready. And he's just looking at me. Yeah, he's just looking at me, and because there's some moonlight out and starlight, I can see. It's not like pitch black, but it is night, and I could see. And what I see is I don't know, he's got these old leggings on, like these old pants, but I could see little tiny fringes here and there, like not all the way down his leg, but in spots. There's like these little fringe things I could see on the sides of his legs. And he didn't have a shirt on. And he's just standing there looking at me, like getting ready to do something. And I didn't know what to do. So instead, I start challenging him. And I'm just going to walk by him, man, because I need to get back to that fire. I'm kind of too scared to stick around him. So I said, hey, who's there? Who's there? And I started walking. I started kind of walking a little fast to get by that part. I didn't want to all out run, even though I felt like it. I was, I didn't want to give him that advantage over me. So I just picked up my pace and started challenging whoever was there. And I only took like 5 steps, and he must have just said, "Oh, hell with this," and he dove off of that bridge into that water. And I heard it splash when he dove in. And when he dove, I was watching him the whole time. When he dove, I could see his back, and he had two braids, but those braids were tied behind his back. And I seen his little arms, little shoulders, everything kind of come out in front of him, and he dove. You know, his hands are in front of his face and everything, and he just dove straight in. And I stopped saying who's there at that point, and I stopped and I waited because you could hear, and I was waiting for it. You know, when somebody comes up and they start swimming, making all that splashing sound, I waited for that. Oh, man, there's no way. I couldn't even hold my breath that long, and I was just at the Marines, and I could hold my breath at that time. Geez, like 2.5, 3 minutes, long time. There's no way he could have held his breath because I stayed there for a bit, man, waiting for him to come up. And so I walked over to that bridge and like close to it, and I start kind of looking down there a little more. Like, did he just like go to the side and didn't make noise? Like exited real quiet, like without splashing? Like did he just go underwater and come up on the side and try to get out? I started looking for him and I couldn't see him anywhere. The hell with this, man! I'm getting out of here. So I start walking back down that house, and I really didn't know what to think. And I get by that big house, and I was looking in that window where my uncle used to always sit. And, you know, he had already passed on, and so did my other uncle, his brother that always stayed out there with him. And I was looking up, I was like, geez, you guys, if that's you, that don't scare me, man. I barely get to come home, and we're not raising hell. We're just all sitting down there at that fire. So if that's you guys, don't mess with me. I just kept walking. I was shook up and get down there to that fire, and I start telling everybody what I saw. And they didn't want to hear it. It was like killing the vibe, killing the mood. They didn't want to hear it. It says, "Oh, maybe you seen an otter." I know what an otter looks like.
You
I
saw an
grew up
otter.
out here. That's not an otter. Well, maybe it's this. Maybe it was a little man that was up there. And then my aunt says, "Maybe it was your cousin. You know, he passed away." He says he liked to swim right there. I said, "That wasn't him. I know what he looks like. No, this was a man, like a little man, a little Indian was up there. No, that wasn't him." And I said, "Wow, whatever." You know, I just start. You know, I didn't want to talk about it no more. And we were just sitting there, and I wouldn't put my back to that house after that. I sat on the side of the fire where I could see that house, and we were just sitting there for not too long. Geez, only about like 10 more minutes, if that. And all you could hear is that fire crackling and a light. It's so quiet out there, man. Like, as soon as that light appears, I point and I said, look at that above that house. And it just got so quiet, and we all watched that light. It appeared above that house, and it was a ghost light. Because a ghost light is one of the strangest things you'll ever see. Like, it doesn't cast light. Like, you couldn't use it like a torch because it don't work like that. The light's all like within itself. It doesn't cast light out. It just within itself. It's really strange. But that's what was there above that house, and we all watched it. And before long, it started swirling, similar to water going down a drain. Is like how we seen it swirling, because you could almost see like little spiral arms in it as it was swirling. And it started getting smaller and smaller and smaller because it was about the size of a beach ball. And it just consistently got smaller, smaller, smaller until it just blinked out of existence and it was gone. And I told him, "I told you guys I seen something up there." Oh, what it was, but I seen something. And
It's like, I told
because,
you so.
yeah, like when I'm thinking back on it, I'm thinking, well, they didn't want to hear it, they didn't want to believe it, they didn't want to think about it. But that little person still made them think about it either way. 'Cause, you know, I'm almost wondering if that was him that made that light.
Yeah, I mean, he's letting them know, I am here. Hi.
Hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go on with them right now. Now, some of the other bad things, right, is I only my cousin who told me this story only caught the end of it, so I don't know the full story. I don't know exactly what happened here, but this woman apparently was raising hell with them. Now, I don't know what she did to him. She did something. She crossed him somehow, and they waited for her to go to sleep, and they kept her asleep. And when she was sleeping, they took out all her teeth, and they just put them back in the old way, you know,
No.
like a molar in front, you know, just whatever, just put them back in the old way. And when she woke up, she had a hell of a time talking, like pronouncing words. It really messed her up for her raising hell with them. So you can't disrespect them when you do see them. You can't, raise hell with them, try to catch them or anything like that. Yeah, you can't do that. And another, my cousin that threw that shoe, he just threw it right back.
Yeah, I'm still laughing at that one.
Yeah, so I don't, I know you're not supposed to mess with them like that, and I never would. I only make offerings to them. I don't, no, I respect them. I wouldn't fool with them like that. And so another story that happened that really stands out to me in my mind is another one that Arlen Potts told me. He said uh, there was this oil and gas company that were exploring for oil up in Canada, and where they were doing it was at the Sandhills, and we don't go to that place. Like there's a reason for it that we don't go there. We stay away from there. There's because of the things that happen there, and there's more significance to that, anyways. But um, when they do work like that on the reserve up there, or even on our reservation, when outside entities come in and they want to conduct some sort of business, there's always this equal opportunity type law in place where you have to hire a certain amount of locals, natives from here, if you're gonna, run a business here. That's kind of the stipulation. And so they put out the job recruitment posters, this, that, and the other. And when people were responding, they were asking them, well, where are you going to be doing it at? And they says, oh, we're going to be exploring in the Sandhills. And oh, look, I don't know, I'll pass. Like they couldn't get any Blackfeet to work there with them. They couldn't get anybody to go up there. And so it finally come to the point where they're just, like, I don't know who gave them the go ahead, but they're just like, well, you can't find anybody to work there. Well, just go ahead and go anyways. That's all right. And so they did. And they moved ahead without any natives with them. And all of a sudden, it wasn't even long that they were supposed to be out there for a certain amount of time. They came back. They pulled all their equipment back and they said, we're leaving. We're not going to do that here. And I go, well, what's wrong? He says, we've seen things out there that we can't explain. Like, I don't know what the hell, but my crew won't go back. I won't go back. No, we're getting the hell out of here. He said, well, what would you see? And an elder come up. I guess they called for an elder, and an elder come up to listen to him. And what that white guy described was, he said, well, I'll just tell you what the elder said. He said, what you guys seen was those little people, and they were holding a ceremony that we call a Sundance. That's what you guys witnessed out there. So that's what was going on, And so a Sundance, you'll have an arbor, like there's an arbor, a structure built, and you honor the creator. And that's what they were doing. They were having their own little Sundance out there. But those non-natives seen that, and they just couldn't wrap their head around it, and it scared the hell out of them. They don't know about these things, and so it really twisted them up, and they left. They couldn't handle that.
Don't blame
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't stay either. Heck, I wouldn't even be there to begin with.
No.
You should know if the natives ain't going. Oh, why?
So
Why
so
don't
why
they?
isn't that why is that area like off limits or like a bad area?
Uh,
Oh, you brought it up, so that's why I gotta ask. I'm sorry, because I'm sitting there go, why is it bad? What's going on? It can't just
okay,
be. Is it
well,
just for the little people or?
no, no. Okay. How do I say this? So some of the old stories about this place. Well, one of them goes like this. Uh, here was these. Geez, there's a lot with that place. Okay, so one of them's like this. Here's these Blackfeet that crossed it. They were going across those sandhills there, and as they were walking, they start noticing things, possessions, art like belongings of people in the sand, kind of half buried here and there, all the way up. And they start. One of them said, "Hey," he said, "that's my dad's shield. Like we put that up in the scaffolding with him, you know, like 50 miles from here, where he was laid up when he made the journey. How is it here? And it kept going, and another one would see something. Hey, that was my mom's. Hey, that was my uncle. Hey, that was. They seen all of their stuff there, and all their stuff that they sent with them over. They seen it all there. And another one, um, another story. It's where they got. Okay, so there's only one type of medicine where those spirit. Okay, so this guy was really sad for his wife, and she had passed. If I remember the story right, and he goes out there and he's all crying and mourning and trying to get her back and everything. Well, finally that spirit shows up. He says, "I hear you out here. What are you doing?" He says, "My wife." He says, "She's gone and I want her back." He says, "It can't be like that. You can't have them back." He says, "But I tell you what, there's only one way you can do it, and there's going to be restrictions to that." And, so he had to go on like a journey through that sand. You had to find her, and then you had to bring her back. Long story short, it was something to that effect. And he gave him, I want to say he gave him a ghost pipe, what we would call a ghost pipe. It comes from those people that are passed. He gave that man. And he said, "You can have her back, but you can never have kids with her. You'll never be able to have kids, but she can come back." And that was the only way that he was able to get her, is I think with that ghost pipe, he had to bring her back with it. So that's like, because that's against the laws, like of the universe. You can't come back once you passed, but there's only
Yeah.
one way one way that they were able to do it, and it was with this type of medicine, which is really people that talk about any sort of ghost medicine say it's really scary. It really you need a lot of focus to use it. It's really unpredictable. So only the ones that are really, I guess, powerful use it in, in the old days. So in that area, there's a lot of um, like for instance, when we talk about going to the sand hills, when we'll say it like that, what we're talking about is going to the future world. We're talking about where you go when you pass away from here. We simply call it the sand hills. And so that place is around there is like death. So we don't go there. There's like a lot of death around there. Ghosts. We don't go there.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
No. Wow. Okay, sorry. I was just curious why it was a bad place. That's that's
Yeah.
that's that that works. All right.
Yeah.
On to the little
You're,
people.
so yeah, that was where they were at, and that's what they seen was those little people in those sand hills. They were having a little ceremony there, right? And so, like that's what I'm saying. Like them ones are obviously good, but they scared the hell out of those people anyways because they were having a ceremony, like a good ceremony, where we're honoring the Great Spirit and their Creator, Napi Natusi. That's what that's for. And and there are other things too where I think about. It really makes me wonder about them. And this story comes from my father-in-law. He was told, okay, so the community college was having an encampment where they were teaching students, and that's kind of somehow like sometimes how they do it. They'll have an encampment to teach students about this, that, or the other. Well, during this time, they were going to go back in the mountains and teach them about plants and whatever else back in there, and they needed somebody to guide them back. So my father-in-law is one of those mountain people too. His dad, they all went back there and they hunted and they knew where to go. Hunting camps here and there. So he had all the horses and all the equipment and everything, all the tack, and they hired him to kind of be like the guide plus like the camp cook and everything. So he brings them back. And one of those nights before they get to where they were going, he said, well, he said before Telespar, he said I had this spur, this set of spurs, and he said the horse I was riding back there, he said it was really scared of those rawlings that were sharp, have points on him. It was scared of those, and he would always shy out, and he'd really act up, and it's really hard to deal with him if he's seen those sharp points on my rawlings on those spurs. He said so. In order to get around that, I took those sharp ones off, and I made some out of silver dollars. He says, they were round, they weren't sharp, so I put those on there. And he said, anyways, he says, that night when we all bed down, he says, I just made a bed with my horse blanket, I want to say. He said, I just laid that out and put it up next to my saddle. He used that saddle as a pillow. It's really an old cowboy guy, him too. He said, I just went to sleep right there. And he said, I wake up and he says, I'm looking around. He says, and I see all these little people. He says, there's old ones, there's young ones, middle aged. He said, and all the people that are sleeping, they have their little packs by them. He says, those little people are just kind of opening their packs, looking in there, like really curious, looking at all their stuff, looking at them. He says, then I look to my side, and he says, there's one standing there, a man, and he's holding my spur, and he's spinning that rowling. He said, because it was loose. He was spinning, and he says, you're going to lose this, right? I was spinning it. And he's just looking at him, and that little man said, do you know who we are? And my father-in-law said, yeah, you're the little people. I've heard stories about you guys. He said, yeah. He said, do you know where we come from? He said, yeah, in places like this, mountains and stuff. He said, he pointed. And he said, do you see those? And he was pointing at all of those trees up there. He says, there's one of us in each one of these trees. And my father-in-law was just looking at him like that. And all of a sudden, they all go away, whatever. And the next morning, after all that was done and they left, he starts looking for his spur, his rowling. Sure enough, it was gone. But, he thinks that little guy took it.
He probably did.
Looked all over for it too. He couldn't find it. But people have run-ins like that every now and then with them. And like sometimes they'll. Let's see if I can talk about this. Well, I guess if I'm talking about it in general terms, I can. So one time I was leaving the sweat lodge and we were all crawling out of it. And we crawled by those. There was two of them sitting there, in that where you put the rocks in the pit. There's two of them just kind of sitting there as we all crawled out of there. There's just like strange things like that, like where they show up, just wherever. It's never guaranteed where they're gonna be, but they're around. That's all I gotta say is like they're around. And I have a friend who actually, when they showed up one time when he was in one of those sweats, was touching his face, little tiny hands. And he was kind of wondering about it. He was like, all right, well, I'm just going to sit still and let them do what they got to do. And when it was over, the guy running the sweat, he started telling him, yeah, these little hands are touching me. Oh, did they show back up? He said, yeah, I think. He says, oh, yeah, they must have showed back up. He said, yeah, they come around every night. It's a man and a woman. They come around here. He says, they're probably just trying to see who you are, trying to, feel your face, like see who you are, because it's dark in there. Just trying to see who you are. Don't worry about them.
Yeah, that would weird me out. I'm not gonna lie. Little hands on my face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they were like on his leg at first. They're just like touching around, like curious.
That's crazy. That's great. What's neat though is they told your father-in-law that they're in all the trees.
Yeah. There was one of them in each one of those trees. So I really don't know how to think about that. Does that mean that the life force that's within that tree can manifest itself as a little person? Does that mean that all of these little people are actually the life force of a tree? I have no idea. I don't know.
I don't either. But that's a great theory though. I know that much. It's yeah. Like I said, I don't know that much about him. That's why I've been listening intently. And from what you're describing, trying to compare it to other encounters with different types of creatures, like your cousin's house, the angry one that's with the shoe, you know, did they by chance accidentally build a house where it was living before, maybe? And it
I
was,
don't think so. Maybe.
and maybe it was upset that, they did, that kind of thing.
I think
Um,
it's that balance. I think it's just run of the mill, you know. Just you got one decided to go in there and raise hell for whatever reason. He it wasn't them. I think it was the little person himself. He's just no good. Likes to raise hell, And so they sees an opportunity. Hey, look at that. Let's go in here and mess with these kids.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what they get out of it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if they are little people, then I mean, they're going to have, obviously a psychology. They're going to have emotions. They're going to have feelings. They're going to be happy and sad, and I think that's where a lot of people, when it comes to these cryptids, like little people said, they view them as okay, like, well, they're all happy, they're all bad. No, they're allowed to have emotions and feelings, and you're gonna get it was with same as people. You're gonna get a bully, you're gonna get a jerk, and you're gonna get somebody nice and helpful. You know,
And see, the thing is I don't think they really like. I th I think they're more like a haunting when those ones are acting bad. It's more like a haunting. I don't think they set traps for you per se. I always hear people, and I think they just like the way it sounds. It's kind of like a catchy little phrase. They'll say "fey trap." Like, yeah, I don't think it's really like that, eh? If they really wanted to mess with you, they would. I don't think they're trying to trap you. They might shoot you with the little people arrow. I don't know, but I don't think they're gonna try and trap you like that or lure you to something. Now that's just our little people. I can't speak for other regions because the ones up in Canada, I mean, Alaska, that are around the different tribes of Eskimo that are up there, they're those ones are like there are stories of them saving people who get in a wreck on their snowmobile way out there, and if they don't get home before dark, they're gonna freeze to death out there. There's stories of them, carrying them back to the village. They're laying there knocked out or something. They're really in a bad way. They carry them back to the village. Or some of them actually are trying to trap you, right? So there's a contradiction to what I just said because some of them, they have this way of fooling with time and they can make you lose time. Like you might think, oh, I only seen this thing for like, you know, a minute or so. Or really you were out there for like 2 weeks, a month, but the time is all weird with them, and they have this thing. They say if those little people are messing with you out there, you can make them stop following you. They said you got to take a knife and right behind you where your trail's at, you have to cut the trail with that knife, and that's one way of protecting yourself from them. I thought that was pretty interesting, see, because again, you go to a different area and you listen to the natives on the ground, they'll know what to do about that because they're different from ours. They're not like ours. They're different ones. So, but this thing with fey traps and all that, I'm not too sure about all that, and I could be wrong. I don't really know. Maybe some of those because those spirits do follow people when people migrate. I know that a lot of these Europeans brought a lot of their spirits here with them when they migrated here back when their ancestors came here.
oh yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah, they've brought those. I'm not saying that can't happen, but as far as like seeing little petals of flowers like moving to get you to go over to it, I don't think that's them. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it is. I mean,
Well, what's funny though is I think with a lot of cryptids, there's a lot of misidentification in with another cryptid, if that makes sense. So if
yeah.
someone's dealing with a little person, they're gonna maybe say it's a fairy, and vice
Hmm.
versa, perchance. So and it's how I look at in our field that we do. I'll hear somebody trying, like I had Chris, and we become friends. He had a strange encounter, I sent you some of the pictures and stuff like that of the area that we're working in. And I was fully and he was telling me, it was what he thought it was and what he thought it was. And as he told me the encounter, I was dumbfounded and digging into it. And you and me were texting about it, and I told you, what cryptid it is I think I'm dealing with. And that particular one is native to down here with the natives, but from the east. They're further east than Arkansas. However, there has been a lot of archaeological evidence showing that some of those tribes that were to the east were doing trading here as well. And the area that we have turns out to be a hot spot. Well, actually, a meeting spot of the rivers for them to do trade. And I think it was a trading post in that area. And I think one of those creatures, became attached to the area. So, and I'm thinking to where a lot of our local, that are native to our country, of the cryptids are going to be, are getting overlooked per se, if that makes sense, due to some of the pollution coming in of these other cryptids that came in from Europe and kind of dominated. So, which is like there may be a cryptid war going on that we don't know about.
That'd be weird.
What exactly, but that's the thing too is you got to think about it. If all of a sudden there was a type of fae folk here, and then because there's humans all over the world, different types, but we're all still human. So if there's a different type of fae folk here, and these European fae started coming in, are they really going to get along? I mean, you start scrapping, I mean, fighting for territory.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, then we bring in the dogman element into it, and European dogmen coming in over here. Hey, I don't think Bigfoot was coming across, but I do think that some of these cryptids are maybe battling that are being imported in, by accident. But can you picture that though, like little people and the fae folk going to war with each other?
The little arrows, I just keep seeing little arrows flying at them.
Yeah, I mean that'd be kind of that would be. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be hilarious. I mean, I would, yeah, I could see it. Hence, as we said on the last episode, of the markers. And and so maybe they are. Maybe there is some cryptid warfare going on that we don't see and realize. And it does happen in a lot spiritual area. Maybe with us growing our cities out more into their territory is, creating more and more conflict. And maybe they're, conflicting more and more with us. Because most people are, they don't care. They want, it's neighborhoods are popping up where there were trees at 10 years ago, 5 years ago, So where there was a field, there's now, a subdivision. And
a lot of those areas probably had that Bigfoot in there too, I wonder about that. Because, not to go, I know we're talking about little people, but just to make my point, there's an area where they're always seen up on my res. My aunt used to always talk about him, the lady that lived around there before this company came and contracted with the tribe to build a new campground there. They started cutting down trees, and that lady was actually forced out of her place. And she was really worried that that Bigfoot that's there is going to raise hell with them. And I don't know, I just wonder about that. But no, that's what that reminded me of when you were talking about us encroaching on them.
Yeah, well, I think, and I believe we are, and I think that, that story right there, I think there is some migration to them. I think they do migrate to a point, but I don't think that the ones in Montana are coming down here to Arkansas for the winter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I think just like the little people, there's different type of Sasquatch. Like down here in the south, I believe they're smaller than they are up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the biggest ones we'll have here will probably be about maybe mm, pushing it. In all honesty, would be 9 feet, but I think they're going to be about 7 to 8 footers down here, and they're going to be skinnier. They're going to be a little bit. They're not going to be as bulky, and that's because of the climate here as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that I know we were talking about little people, and now we're on Bigfoot. I can't not love Bigfoot. But the thing about it, so they are being pushed out. Like the area that we're researching here, that we the structure that I sent you pictures of stuff the other day when we were talking, that area over there is covered in X's. But now the other area where the other crypt is at, there's none. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's what kind of made me stop and think, wait a minute. And then I found out as well that the Arkansas Bigfoot cartel guys, a good group of guys, there's a little shout out, guys. They're working on the properties beside us and having the same type of encounters. So, we're going to be digging a lot into that coming up here soon. But I do think they are migrating. They're being pushed out. And I think that's why I think encounters are going up. I mean, did you hear about the two researchers there in Oregon that went out and on Christmas Eve and they found passed away?
Yeah.
Have you dug into that at all?
Oh, other than they said that they passed due to exposure. I mean, how can two experienced? I don't know. There's a lot to question there.
So what I started digging into, and I did a little episode about it when it happened. What I started digging into was they go out on Christmas Eve. They traveled 150 miles on Christmas Eve to go to a national forest to look for Bigfoot on Christmas Eve, 150 miles away from home. That's not a rookie mistake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, now here's some really interesting points about where they were found at and where they went. One, the day they recovered the bodies, okay, the search and rescue for the sheriff's department for that county, all of their equipment was stolen that night. Somebody cut the fence, went in, and as the sheriff's department put in the press release, if it wasn't nailed down, it was taken.
Whoa.
Now, this is even crazier. The county that they were found in, there is a $1,000 fine and up to a year in jail if you harm a mythical creature.
Oh.
That's on the books. And they still haven't released the names yet as of this recording. Isn't that crazy?
It is. There's so much there left to question. I'd have to do a deep dive myself because I haven't yet, but from what you've told me, there's even more there than I thought.
Yeah, well, it's on the sheriff's department's Facebook page about them being the equipment being stolen. They have a GoFundMe to replenish the equipment on the day they recover the bodies. Come on, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but come on.
Dang, I wonder about that. Huh? What do you think happened?
I'm running the theory to where either they got disoriented, they found something, or something found them that probably didn't want to be found. Maybe a little portal shifting. You're driving a good distance away to go research.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a day trip. You get up early in the morning, drive up there. The weather's. You don't go in the woods without checking the weather.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. Again, this isn't. I don't think this was like Bob and Joe when they decided on the 23rd of December. Hey Bob, let's drive up there and go look for Bigfoot. You know what, Joe? That's a great idea. I'll wear a light jacket. I think you should. I mean, come on. Nobody does. And one of the things that, and I can't confirm it, and that's why I haven't really talked too much about it. I can't confirm it, but I think the older gentleman had been up there numerous times doing the same thing, looking for Sasquatch. So either something chased them, or I mean, I'm curious whether there was open cast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I said, yeah. So I mean, since we were talking about the little people and luring and messing, and then the battles and a potential war with cryptids and everything, and which could all be taking place, and maybe these two guys were caught in a crossfire or something, or they literally did get disoriented, chased by something, and I have a hard time getting that lost in the woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's my military or growing up in the woods, and you could probably relate to that as well. So that's why I try and make it a point to take my kids in the woods as often as I can.
Yeah, when I first thought about that, what I thought was something chased him. I don't know why, but that's just the conclusion I came to because John and I were talking about that a little bit. And I thought, well, something probably chased him, for that to happen. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, that was my first thought was something caught him. Something caught him. And, I was, a good friend of mine who was trying to, he's from there, and he's big in the Bigfoot community up there. And I know that he's the one that sent me the story on it when it first broke. And so that's when I was digging, and he was going to look into it as well, see if he knew who they were. And as of right now, he doesn't know who they are. But I just think it's funny to where the story ends with them recovering the bodies and having their equipment stolen. No names released, nothing, as of this recording.
Ooh. Yeah, there's a lot there. There's more to question, definitely.
I know, it drives me nuts. I don't know. I don't think it was little people, though.
I don't either.
I know. To me, it's got Dogman vibes. It really does.
Yeah, we'll never know. I bet you it's one of those things we'll never know. It'll just be a mystery.
Yeah, but it's always fun to talk about the mystery and to break it down, and I think that's why we do our shows. Well, Rod, I'm going to bring this in for a landing, buddy. I mean, it's been a long night for both of us. I just want to tell you thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been a complete honor. I'm hoping to get you back again for some future shows, future collaborations. I wish you weren't all the way up there in Montana. Honestly, I'm glad you are. You're having a good time, because I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee and shake your hand.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Likewise, I feel the same way.
Good. I'm glad. I appreciate that. And definitely, everybody, do me a favor, though. Go out there, and if you haven't already subscribed, go to Lodge Tales. They're on YouTube. They're on all your streaming platforms out there. Rod is a great guy. Trust me, the name is perfect. It's a great show. And Rod, obviously, you've listened to 2 of his episodes with me. So go give him a like, give him a follow, and y'all have a good time. And Rod, thank you again, brother. I sure appreciate you coming on the show. And until next time, everybody.
I'm the king of the world.